Sex is the key to manifesting your wealth, inspired by Napoleon Hill. You've been told that success depends on hard work. You've been told to visualize, to affirm, to hustle, to grind. But there's something deeper, something far more powerful, that Napoleon Hill uncovered in his legendary work Think and Grow Rich, and yet most people completely ignore it. That something is sex. Yes, sex. Not in the way pop culture reduces it. Not as lust. Not as addiction. Not as entertainment. Hill was talking about sexual energy, the most powerful form of human vitality. He called it the transmutation of sexual energy, and he claimed it was the secret behind the genius of men like Napoleon Bonaparte, Mahatma Gandhi, Abraham Lincoln, and Thomas Edison. Behind every great man, Hill observed, was a redirected force of sexuality turned into mental clarity, focus, and unstoppable drive. But here's the truth they never taught you in school. Your sexual energy is the raw creative fuel of your wealth. It's the same force that creates life. The same biological fire that drives desire, ambition, hunger, and movement. When you learn to channel it, not waste it, not suppress it, but direct it, you become something most men will never become. A manifester, a builder, a magnet for prosperity. This book is not about abstinence. It's not about indulgence either. It's about mastery. It's about turning the act that most people burn in a moment into the force that builds empires. Napoleon Hill understood that true manifestation comes when your mind and body are aligned with purpose, when your emotions serve your vision, and when your desires are no longer chasing pleasure, but power. In the next 8 chapters, you will discover why sexual energy is the highest form of vibration in your body and how to harness it. How great men throughout history used it for creativity, financial success, and leadership. Why most modern men are drained, foggy, unmotivated. And how transmutation can change your entire life. How your intimate relationship, if conscious and intentional, can become your engine of prosperity. What it means to turn desire into determination, and lust into laser-like ambition. And most importantly, how to stop leaking your power and start manifesting your destiny. This is not a spiritual fantasy. It's not a religious dogma. It's practical, biological, psychological truth. Your sex drive is not the enemy. It's the ignition switch to your wealth. Welcome to the truth that few dare to speak aloud. Now let's unlock it. Let's manifest. Chapter 1. The Creative Force Within. Understanding the Power of Sexual Energy. Sexual energy is not just about desire. It is the most potent creative force a human being possesses. It's not metaphorical, it's literal. Your ability to generate life is the same biological energy that can generate ideas, movements, wealth, and influence. Napoleon Hill knew this. In Think and Grow Rich, he wrote, "Sex energy is the creative energy of all geniuses." What he meant was this: behind every act of creation, whether it be a child, a business, or a breakthrough idea, there is a surge of creative life force. And that life force originates in the same center of the human body, the sexual center. Most people waste this force. They spend it in moments of fleeting pleasure, not realizing they're releasing the fuel of their own potential. Hill called for its transmutation, not repression, but redirection. It is the art of converting physical desire into mental and financial achievement. Just as steam, when harnessed, can power a train, your sexual energy, when transmuted, can power your destiny. This is not a moral argument. It's a scientific one. Sexual energy triggers hormonal, emotional, and psychological responses that influence your drive, charisma, clarity, and creativity. When a man is aroused, not in a moment of lust, but in a state of energized purpose, he becomes magnetic. Women feel it. Clients feel it. The world feels it. It's a silent power that others notice without even understanding why. Think about it. When you're sexually energized but don't release that energy, what happens? You feel a build-up, a pressure. That pressure can be destructive if not understood. But if you consciously redirect it toward your goals, it becomes fuel. That's transmutation. That's power. Napoleon Hill observed that many of the most successful men of his time were not just brilliant thinkers. They were intensely passionate. not necessarily in how they behaved publicly, but in how they lived with purpose. They had an internal fire. They were often driven by the presence of a strong romantic partner. They were often moved to action not just by logic, but by desire. And yet, they did not live controlled by that desire. They channeled it. Hill did not advocate celibacy. In fact, he warned against it when done without purpose. What he taught was balance, control, not denial. He said that when a man reaches his 40s and 50s, if he has developed the skill of sexual transmutation, that is when his genius fully awakens. Because now, with years of wisdom and the fire of sexual energy mastered, he becomes unstoppable. Let's go deeper. Every form of energy in your body either expands you or depletes you. Sexual energy is expansive, when held and focused. But when discharged unconsciously, it weakens you. Think of the animal kingdom. After sex, many species fall into a trance. They sleep, they retreat. In humans, after orgasm, the body enters a parasympathetic state. You feel drained. You want to disconnect. For most men, this becomes a cycle. Excitement, release, fatigue, again and again. Over years, this weakens the nervous system, drains the will, and dulls the mind. But when that energy is retained and directed, it sharpens the senses. It awakens the brain. It energizes the body. You walk taller, you speak clearer, you think faster. This is not superstition. It is biology. Athletes often abstain from sex before competitions. Monks retain their seed to cultivate inner power. Warriors in ancient civilizations were taught to harness sexual force to enhance strength. Why? Because across time, cultures have known the truth. Your sexual energy is your life force. Napoleon Hill was one of the few voices in Western thought to bring this truth to the world of business, wealth, and achievement. He said plainly that sexual energy, when transmuted, becomes charisma. It becomes persistence. It becomes focus. These are the real engines of wealth. Let's now break it down practically. Every time you feel sexual desire, you are being given an opportunity. Most people interpret it as a need to release. That's the old conditioning. But what if you paused and breathed deeply? What if you let that feeling rise up your spine instead of releasing it? What if you meditated on your goal in that moment, right in the middle of your desire? That's transmutation in real time. Suddenly, your brain lights up. You start to imagine more vividly. You feel more urgency, more hunger, more purpose. The same chemicals that drive arousal, dopamine, testosterone, oxytocin, begin to fuel your vision instead of a sexual act. And now, instead of sleeping with someone, you're building something. You're moving. You're creating. That's the power Hill wanted you to know. But why don't people talk about this? Because society fears sexual energy. It either demonizes it or exploits it. Religion tells you to suppress it. Advertising tells you to spend it. Nobody tells you to master it. But Napoleon Hill did. He pointed to it as the great overlooked key in the life of every successful person. Not the key you use recklessly, but the one you polish, protect, and use with intention. Think of the most captivating people you've ever met. They may not be traditionally attractive, but they radiate presence. That presence often comes from their inner mastery of desire. They are not needy. They are not desperate. They are full. They are whole. That's the result of transmutation. They are lit from within, not because they're constantly releasing, but because they've learned to hold fire in their chest and walk with it into the world. When you learn to control your sexual energy, you control your mind. When you control your mind, you control your focus. When you control your focus, you manifest your wealth. Napoleon Hill's great insight was this: the energy of sex, when combined with the emotion of desire and the power of faith, becomes the most potent creative formula on earth. It is not an accident that the word orgasm means little death in French. Each time you release unconsciously, you lose a spark. But each time you hold with purpose, you gain momentum. So now the choice is yours. Will you continue to live drained, foggy, and unfocused? Or will you begin to respect the fire within you, not as a danger, but as the sacred fuel for your destiny. You have within you a power that the world has taught you to fear or to waste. Now, it's time to reclaim it. It's time to build. It's time to manifest. Chapter 2. Transmutation. Turning sexual desire into financial power. Sexual desire is not a distraction. It's a signal. It tells you that something inside you is alive, ready to move, ready to create. Most people misinterpret that signal. They chase a quick release instead of honoring the deeper call to evolve, to build, to expand. This is where the idea of transmutation becomes revolutionary. Napoleon Hill defined transmutation as the switching of the mind from thoughts of physical expression to thoughts of some other nature. In this case, wealth, achievement, and purpose. He wrote that the greatest men in history became great because they developed the ability to transmute sexual energy into their professional energy. This is not a poetic metaphor, it is a practice, a discipline, a skill. Think about what happens during sexual desire. Your body heats up. Your blood pressure rises. Your mind focuses. Your emotions become intensified. Your senses sharpen. This is a biological state of peak potential. But what do most people do with it? They discharge it. They throw it away in a moment of physical release. And with it, they throw away the most potent state of personal power they experience all day. Now imagine this. What if, instead of releasing that energy, you channeled it? What if you sat down and used that state of intensity to write your business plan, make your sales calls, craft your next product, study your market, meditate on your next move? That's transmutation. This isn't just philosophy, it's neuroscience. During sexual arousal, the brain floods with dopamine, a neurotransmitter linked to pleasure, motivation, and goal-seeking behavior. It's the same chemical that fuels ambition. Now combine that with testosterone, which increases aggression and assertiveness, and oxytocin, which enhances trust and connection. This is not a cocktail for sex. It's a recipe for domination in any field when applied strategically. Napoleon Hill understood this. He claimed that the most powerful version of a man is not the one who suppresses his sexuality, nor the one who indulges it carelessly, but the one who redirects it consciously. This is a man who walks into the room and commands attention without saying a word. Why? Because he is full. He is not chasing. He is building. His desire is not scattered, it is focused. This is what Hill meant by a man who has magnetism. The magnetism is not in the body, it's in the energy. Sexual energy not wasted, but transmuted, makes a man radiant. It gives his words power. It gives his actions gravity. He becomes trustworthy, compelling, unforgettable. And in the world of business, that's everything. Now let's be practical. How do you transmute? It starts with awareness. The next time you feel sexual desire, pause. Don't suppress it. Don't judge it. Just feel it. Acknowledge it. Then ask yourself, where can I direct this right now? This could be your work. It could be your mission. It could be your vision board, your meditation, your journaling, your pitch, your investment strategy. Let the same fire that would drive you into a bedroom drive you into your destiny instead. It will feel strange at first. Your body will want the easy route. But over time, you'll notice something changing. Your mind will get clearer. Your decisions will be sharper. Your results will be stronger. Why? Because you're now moving with the power of focused desire. Transmutation is also about symbolism. When you feel aroused, your body is telling you, create something. Nature wired you to reproduce. But you can use that same signal to reproduce wealth, not just offspring. You can use it to plant the seeds of an idea, nurture a vision, give birth to a project, grow a legacy. That's what great creators do. Hill wrote that some men only become successful after falling deeply in love. Why? Because love activates higher emotional states. It gives direction to desire. The sexual energy is no longer animal. It becomes sacred. It moves through the heart, connects with vision, and it demands expression, not just physically, but in the outer world. That is when the man becomes dangerous. in the best possible way. He is no longer seeking pleasure. He is becoming purpose. Let's examine how this worked for men throughout history. Leonardo da Vinci was known for channeling his energy into art, invention, and discovery. Nikola Tesla abstained from sex not out of repression, but to preserve his genius. Steve Jobs, in his early years, studied Eastern teachings on sexual energy and peak states. Even Muhammad Ali famously avoided sex before fights, claiming it gave him power. The common thread. They all understood that holding energy is not weakness, it's power accumulation. Now, this does not mean you must be celibate. That's not the message. Hill never said to cut off your sexuality. He said to elevate it, to guide it, to make it serve you, not enslave you. Here's how to begin mastering this. Daily rituals. Start your day with intention. Before you touch your phone or get distracted, sit in silence. Feel your body. If there's desire, breathe into it. Visualize your goals. Let that energy rise through your spine. Hold it in your chest. Set your mission for the day. Physical discipline. Movement is essential. Don't let energy stagnate. Exercise. Run. Lift. Sweat. Let your body burn and transform the energy into power. Creative expression. When you feel aroused, write, design, speak, create content, take action. Do not waste that surge. It's the muse whispering in your ear. Emotional alchemy. Learn to link your sexual desire to emotional purpose. Don't just feel turned on, feel called. What's the bigger reason behind your ambition? Who are you building for? What legacy are you creating? Partner consciousness. If you're in a relationship, bring your partner into this. Don't just engage sexually for pleasure. Engage with vision. Merge your energies. Set goals together. Talk about wealth. Build empire-level intimacy. This is the new model of masculinity. Not the man who chases women to feel alive, but the man who becomes so alive that women, money, opportunities, and success are drawn to him like gravity. Because his energy is not chaotic, it is organized, structured, intentional, magnetic. You were never meant to live numbed out and drained. You were designed to channel your inner fire into outer creation. This is what Napoleon Hill taught, beneath the layers of philosophy and success principles. Your sexual energy is not separate from your financial power. It is the root of it. And the more you master it, the more the universe responds. In transmutation, there is transformation. In desire, there is direction. And in the man who learns to redirect his fire, there is unstoppable wealth. Start now. Feel the energy. Hold it, channel it, and watch what happens next. Herramientas. ChatGPT puede cometer errors. Considera verificar la información importante. Ver preferencias de cookie. Chapter 3. The Silent Saboteur. How sexual leakage destroys your focus, clarity, and fortune. There is a thief inside most men. It doesn't wear a mask. It doesn't break down the door. It walks in quietly, unnoticed, night after night, draining you of your fire, and you let it. That thief is sexual leakage. Napoleon Hill never used that phrase, but he described its effects perfectly. He observed that most men fail not because they lack talent, ideas, or ambition, but because they lack control over their emotions and desires, especially sexual ones. He said, the emotion of sex brings into being a state of mind. Because of ignorance on the subject, this state of mind is generally associated with physical expression. That physical expression, repeated carelessly and unconsciously, becomes a habit of loss. Let's say it plainly, most men are not poor because they're unlucky. They're poor because they're drained. Let's break this down. Every time you give in to impulsive sexual urges, whether through random hookups, porn, or compulsive self-release, you are leaking energy. You're not just releasing fluid. You're releasing the very vitality that powers your brain, your discipline, your ambition, and your long-term focus. Sexual energy is like electricity. You can light a city with it. Or you can electrocute yourself if you don't understand how to handle it. And most men are shocked every night, through a screen, through a fantasy, through a habit they haven't questioned. This isn't about guilt. This is about power. When a man loses control of his sexual energy, he becomes foggy in the mind, weak in his will, restless in his spirit, and broke in his finances. You don't need to believe in mysticism to see this. Just look at the man who's addicted to porn or compulsive masturbation. Look at how he moves. Look at his posture, his eyes, his energy. It's not judgment, it's physics. What you don't contain, you cannot control. And what you cannot control will always control you. Napoleon Hill warned about drifting. A drifter is someone who floats through life without direction, always reacting, never creating. Sexual leakage creates drifters. Why? Because it numbs the brain's natural tension. Tension is needed to pursue a goal. But when you artificially release that tension every night, you have no hunger left to build anything meaningful. You've spent the fuel before the race begins. Here's how this plays out in modern life. You wake up tired. You scroll. You avoid your purpose. You fantasize. You release. You feel momentary relief. Then guilt. Then dullness. Then confusion. You overeat. You oversleep. You underperform. You disconnect from real people. You isolate. You chase pleasure again. And the cycle repeats. This is not just a behavioral pattern. It's a neurological loop. Your brain becomes wired to avoid discomfort and chase dopamine. But dopamine, when hijacked by constant stimulation, loses its power. The reward circuits of your brain get numbed. So now, even when you achieve something real, you don't feel it. Nothing satisfies. That's the cost of sexual leakage. But here's the deeper truth. You're not just draining your energy. You're destroying your self-respect. Every time you give in to a cheap thrill, you're telling your subconscious, I am not strong enough to hold my desire. And the subconscious remembers. It starts to doubt you. It starts to whisper, you won't follow through. This erosion of self-trust is fatal to wealth. Because wealth doesn't come to the most talented. It comes to the most disciplined. He'll emphasize decision, focus, faith, and persistence as pillars of wealth. None of those are possible when you're sexually drained. Why? Because willpower is tied to your hormonal system. Testosterone, dopamine, serotonin, they rise or fall based on your habits. When you waste your sexual energy, you lower your natural drive. You become emotionally flat, spiritually unmotivated, financially unstable. Now, let's go even further. Sexual leakage doesn't just affect the individual. It affects his environment, his business, his relationships. A man who leaks energy leaks leadership. He becomes reactive instead of proactive. He avoids challenge. He fears confrontation. He loses the respect of those around him, even if they can't articulate why. You've seen it. The man who can't look people in the eye. The man who can't finish what he starts. The man who hides behind fantasy but never builds reality. That man is drowning in leakage. But now, you don't have to be that man. You can change this. Right now. And it starts with a simple decision. I will no longer trade long-term power for short-term pleasure. This is the cornerstone of mastery. You are reclaiming your kingdom, one urge at a time. And every time you choose presence over impulse, your energy returns. Your clarity sharpens. Your fire grows. And the world begins to feel it. Here's how to stop leaking. Cut the triggers. Eliminate access to the things that keep you stuck. Porn. Erotic social media. Toxic conversations. The mind cannot heal in a minefield. Build friction. Make it harder to relapse. Set up systems. Accountability. Trackers. Delays. The harder it is to fall, the easier it becomes to rise. Create tension. Channel your desire into movement. Go for a run. Write your business plan. Do push-ups. Make a call. Energy must move. Give it direction. Reframe the urge. When desire arises, say, "This is power rising. I will use it, not lose it." Train your brain to see arousal as activation, not temptation. Connect to a mission. Leakage thrives in boredom. When you live with a burning sense of purpose, you have no room for mindless indulgence. Remember, your energy is currency. Every day, you're either investing it or spending it. Napoleon Hill didn't say this explicitly, but the message is clear. A man who cannot control his sexual urges will never control his destiny. He may have flashes of brilliance, moments of charm, short-lived wins, but he will always fall back to average. Why? Because he doesn't own his engine. But when you stop leaking, everything changes. You stand taller. You think deeper. You speak with more conviction. You attract respect. You attract money. You attract a new version of yourself. And that version is dangerous to mediocrity. He doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He builds. He manifests. So today, make the vow. No more leakage. No more loss. You will no longer be the thief of your own future, because your fire is sacred, and it's time to light the world with it. Chapter 4: Sex with Purpose. How conscious intimacy accelerates wealth and power. Sex is not the enemy. Random, unconscious sex is. Napoleon Hill didn't tell you to abstain from sex. He told you to transmute it, to elevate it, to give it a purpose bigger than release. He spoke of the creative force of sex as a sacred energy, capable of fueling genius, wealth, and ambition, but only when directed with intention. Let's now go deeper into the idea that few dare to explore. Sex, when done with purpose and presence, becomes a spiritual and financial amplifier. It can enhance your vision. It can deepen your drive. It can even open doors of intuition, power, and confidence that no business seminar will ever teach you. Most men never experience this level of sex. Why? Because most men treat sex like a transaction, a quick escape, a moment of conquest, a tool for ego, and as a result, they miss the alchemical power of it. When two people enter a sexual union with awareness, something rare happens. Their energies combine. Not just their bodies, their vibrations, their intentions, their subconscious programming. If one or both of them hold a clear vision of purpose, wealth, greatness, that energy gets magnified. Think about that. Your sexual partner is not just a lover. They are a mirror, a multiplier, a magnet. This is why Hill said, the most successful men are often those with strong, vibrant relationships with women who inspire them. He wasn't romanticizing love. He was pointing to a power source, a relationship that elevates your ambition instead of distracting it. Let's call this what it is: conscious intimacy. When sex is approached consciously, it becomes a ritual of grounding and refueling, a way to merge visions and energize purpose, a generator of charisma, presence, and spiritual alignment. This isn't tantra. This isn't about slow breathing or exotic positions. It's about how you show up, with awareness, with intention, with the clarity that says, this act is sacred, and I'm channeling this fire into something greater than just pleasure. Here's how this works. Before sex, take a moment of silence. Feel your body. Feel your breath. Think of your goals. Invite your partner into that energy, even if silently. That intention shapes the frequency of what's about to happen. During sex, stay present. Let go of fantasy. Stay in the body. Feel the connection. The more you are here, the more power you collect, not just discharge. At climax, don't just collapse. Hold the energy. Hold your partner. Feel what is being created, not just what is released. Use the momentum to visualize, to affirm, to plant a mental seed. After sex, meditate for 2 minutes, together or alone. Let the energy settle in your system. Journal a single sentence of gratitude or intention. That act will start rewiring your brain to associate sex with purpose, not escape. Now you're no longer just having sex. You're transmuting it into your empire. But what if your partner doesn't understand this yet? That's okay. You lead. Not with words, but with energy. When you change your relationship with sex, they will feel it. They will sense your presence, your clarity, your confidence. And if they're the right person, they'll rise with you. They'll evolve. And together, you'll create more than moments. You'll create momentum. Let's not ignore this either. If your partner is toxic, disconnected, or energetically heavy, that impacts your path. Because sex is not just pleasure, it is transfer. You take on their emotions, their beliefs, their energy. You absorb some of their frequency. So be mindful. Every person you sleep with is a collaborator in your creation or your collapse. They're either feeding your power or bleeding it. Napoleon Hill didn't write about this in the way modern science does, but his conclusions align with it. Today, we know through epigenetics and neurobiology that sexual experiences leave deep imprints on our nervous system. Hormones like oxytocin and vasopressin create emotional bonds, even when the logic says, this is just fun. And these bonds influence your thoughts, moods, productivity, and even your perception of self-worth. This is why casual sex often leads to confused lives. The body bonds, but the mind resists. The energy intertwines, but the purpose is lost. And so, you drift. Again. But conscious sex does the opposite. It brings you home. It locks your focus. It realigns your instincts. It makes you remember who the hell you are. And when that sex is shared with a partner who sees your mission and believes in it, the impact is exponential. You don't just love each other. You activate each other. Together, you build rituals that reinforce success. Speak words that charge each other's minds. Heal wounds that once blocked abundance. Align your energies like gears in a machine, spinning toward a shared vision. This is sacred business. This is empire-level bonding. Sex was never meant to be a distraction from your purpose. It was meant to be fuel for it. Napoleon Hill hinted at this truth when he wrote, "The emotion of sex contains the secret of creative ability." But he left it to you to dig deeper, to experiment, to discover the fire behind those words. You are not a beast looking for pleasure. You are a builder looking for power. And sex, when done with presence and purpose, makes you powerful. Let's flip the script. Instead of avoiding sex to be productive, integrate it. Instead of fearing your desire, master it. Instead of chasing meaningless encounters, co-create meaningful energy. Because the man who learns to own his sexual fire and direct it into his mission becomes unstoppable. Not because he has more sex, but because he has better sex. With better energy. For a better life. It's not about suppression. It's about elevation. And when sex becomes sacred, your entire life rises with it. Your income, your ideas, your courage, your magnetism. You don't have to choose between success and passion. When aligned, they become the same force. Now go claim it. Not just in the boardroom, but in the bedroom too. Chapter 5. Sexual Energy and the Subconscious Mind. Reprogramming your inner world for wealth. Napoleon Hill's most powerful lesson wasn't just about action. It was about inner programming. He said, the subconscious mind will translate into reality a thought driven by fear or by faith. But there's another force, even more primal, more intense than either of those, desire. And the most intense desire in the human system? Sexual desire. Now, imagine this. What happens when that desire is combined with intention, vision, and mental repetition? You create a subconscious command, one that can bypass resistance, rewire your identity, and reprogram your mind to seek and attract wealth. This is the secret very few understand. Your sexual energy is the fastest and most direct channel to your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the driver of 95% of your results. Let's go deeper. Your subconscious mind doesn't understand logic. It understands emotion and repetition. It responds to what you feel most intensely. When you're angry, scared, euphoric, or sexually aroused, your subconscious is wide open, like a sponge. ready to accept whatever is presented. That's why people remember details of traumatic moments, or why a song from a romantic night can instantly trigger nostalgia. Emotion imprints memory. It imprints belief. It imprints identity. Now let's flip this power and use it to build your wealth. What if, at the peak of your sexual energy, not just during sex, but during desire, you inserted a new belief? What if, in the moment your system is fully alive, you fed your mind a phrase like, "I am a millionaire in the making. Money flows to me because I radiate power. I attract wealth because I live on purpose. My sexual energy creates my financial reality." These are not affirmations. These are programming commands, when done in the right state. Here's how to use this. Emotional anchoring. When you feel aroused, whether from attraction, connection, or even your own thoughts, don't rush to discharge it. Pause. Sit with it. Let that energy rise in your body. Close your eyes. And then speak your wealth vision aloud. Say your goal. Speak it into your nervous system. Your subconscious is listening more than ever in that moment. Mindful self-connection. If you're alone and experiencing sexual desire, don't shame it. Don't suppress it. Use it. Lie down. Visualize your future. Imagine holding the keys to your business. Signing the deal. Hearing your name on stage. Receiving the wire transfer. While you're in that state of high energy, link your sexuality to your purpose. Partnered manifestation. With a conscious partner, this becomes even more powerful. During intimate moments, as your bodies align and your energy rises, whisper your intentions. Share your dreams. Speak your goals into the space between you. When climax approaches, hold hands. Lock eyes. Breathe your vision into reality. Together. This is not woo-woo. This is neurological programming. The sexual state engages the limbic system, the seat of emotion, memory, and subconscious patterning. It activates brain waves that are similar to meditation or hypnosis, states in which the subconscious is most open. That's why marketing uses sex, because the aroused mind is the most suggestible. So why wouldn't you use that power to market to your own mind? Hill understood this when he wrote, "Sex desire is the most powerful of human desires. When driven by this desire, men develop keenness of imagination, courage, willpower, persistence, and creative ability unknown to them at other times." But he didn't just mean in action. He meant in mindset. If you want to change your financial life, you must change the blueprint in your subconscious. But you can't do that through willpower alone. You need access to the control room. Sexual energy gives you the key to that door. Let's look at what happens when you misuse it. When you indulge in unconscious release, especially through porn or meaningless encounters, you program your subconscious with passivity. You reward the mind for fantasy, not reality. You anchor pleasure to images that don't exist. And over time, your brain starts associating success with escaping effort, not building wealth. That's dangerous. But when you hold your energy, focus it, and pair it with vision, you do the opposite. You tell your subconscious, "I delay pleasure because I trust that something greater is coming. I am in control. I build, I don't chase. I earn my reward." These beliefs shape your identity, and your identity shapes your income. Hill taught that faith, belief, and autosuggestion, repeated messages to the subconscious, are the foundation of riches. But those messages must be emotionalized, not robotic, not repeated like a parrot. They must be delivered in state, in moments of emotional fire. Sexual energy gives you those moments, multiple times a day. Now let's be clear. This is not about spiritualizing lust. It's not about pretending that sex is always sacred. It's not. It becomes sacred when you bring purpose into it, when you add awareness, intention, vision. That's when the switch flips from pleasure to power. Every time you turn on your sexual energy, you're holding a match. You can light a cigarette, or you can light a torch that guides you to your empire. Here's your daily practice. Morning, upon waking, Breathe deeply into your belly. Visualize your goals. If desire arises, link it to your wealth plan. Speak one sentence aloud about who you are becoming. Midday. If arousal hits during the day, don't shame it. Redirect it. Stand up. Move your body. Take 3 deep breaths. Think, I choose to build, not escape. Night. Before bed, journal one sentence. My sexual energy fuels my success. Repeat this for 30 days. You'll rewire your subconscious to see desire as divine fuel, not a trap. You are a walking magnet, and the strength of your magnetism depends on your inner programming. Sexual energy is the voltage. Your subconscious mind is the circuit, and wealth is the light that turns on when the system is aligned. This is what Napoleon Hill saw but didn't fully say. This is the code behind the success of men who rise, while others stumble. They don't just act differently. They think differently. And they feel differently. They feel their power and direct it inward, to the mind. Then outward, to the world. And the world responds, with money, opportunities, and respect. So now the question becomes, what are you programming your mind with every time you feel desire? Is it fantasy and loss? Or purpose and power? Your future depends on that answer. Chapter 6. Sexual Abstinence versus Sexual Mastery. The Real Path to Power. There's a dangerous misunderstanding circulating in both spiritual and success communities. That abstinence equals mastery. That just by withholding sex, you become powerful. That celibacy is a shortcut to genius. Let's be clear, Napoleon Hill never promoted abstinence for its own sake. He promoted sexual transmutation. And there's a massive difference. Abstinence is the act of not having sex. Transmutation is the art of converting sexual desire into power. One is passive. The other is active. One can be suppressive. The other is creative. Too many men go down the path of abstinence believing that simply holding back will lead to wealth, focus, and clarity. But they forget the essential ingredient: direction. Energy not used becomes stagnation, and stagnation becomes frustration. Frustration becomes resentment, and resentment kills purpose. Napoleon Hill observed that many men only reached their peak of power after age 40, once they had learned to master their emotions and desires, not avoid them. They didn't shut off their sexuality. They wielded it like a sword, with precision, with discipline, with purpose. Let's break this down. Abstinence is a phase. It can be useful, especially when you've been addicted to impulsive behaviors. Taking a break can reset your nervous system, rebuild discipline, and help you see clearly. But abstinence is not the destination. It's the detox. It's the clean slate before you learn how to build something real. Because true mastery is not about avoidance. It's about integration. It's about being around temptation and staying focused. Feeling desire and channeling it. Being in the fire and using it to forge your character, not burn your life. This is where most men fail. They think avoiding women, sex, or even porn will magically make them rich or magnetic. But all they do is bury the energy deeper. And what's buried eventually erupts. In anger, in confusion, in depression, or in sudden relapse. You can't run from your sexual energy. You must lead it. Let's look at what mastery actually means in practice. You feel sexual desire, and you pause. You don't act impulsively. You breathe. You observe. You use that energy as a trigger to remember your mission. You don't suppress it. You alchemize it. You don't need sex, but you're not afraid of it. If you're single, you're selective. If you're in a relationship, you show up with presence. You don't chase it. You don't overvalue it. You use it as one of many tools in your arsenal. You use moments of arousal for vision building. Instead of acting on the energy you write, you strategize. You train. You work. The same fire that would fuel an orgasm now fuels your empire. You reject shame. You don't see sex as dirty or dangerous. You see it as sacred when used wisely, and destructive when abused. You embrace the responsibility of holding that fire with care. Here's the truth Hill knew but didn't always say outright. Sexual energy is neutral. It's not good or bad. It's a force. And your results in life depend entirely on how you relate to that force. Let's use a metaphor. Electricity can light a city, or burn it down. The difference is the circuit, the structure, the intentional use. If you abstain from sex but have no vision, you're wasting energy. If you chase sex without wisdom, you're losing energy. But if you master sex through purpose, you're multiplying energy. And that energy is the foundation of wealth. Napoleon Hill spoke of emotionalized desire as the true beginning of all riches. Sexual energy is desire in its purest, most visceral form. If you cut it off, you cut off your fuel. If you indulge it recklessly, you burn out. But if you shape it like fire in a forge, you create tools, weapons, engines. You become the builder of your own destiny. Let's look at the science behind this. When a man abstains from ejaculation for several days or weeks, his testosterone levels rise, his dopamine sensitivity increases, and his mental focus sharpens. That's real. But if that energy has no outlet, if it's not directed toward a mission, it begins to create restlessness, anxiety, and even depression. Energy must move. And sexual energy must become creative energy. That's why men who go too far into nofap or extreme celibacy without purpose often feel worse after the high fades. Because holding energy without using it is like filling a rocket with fuel and never launching. It's explosive with nowhere to go. So what's the solution? Mastery through direction. Here's how. Daily transmutation practice. Each morning, sit in silence. Feel your body. If desire arises, visualize your goals. Write one powerful action you will take that day. Use the fire to move. Weekly reset. Once a week, reflect on your relationship with desire. Were you reactive or responsive? Did you leak energy or convert it? Adjust accordingly. Intentional sex. If in a relationship, use sex not just for pleasure, but for bonding, vision setting, and energetic renewal. Hold space after. Talk about dreams. Breathe together. Grow together. Creative expression. Every day, build something. It could be content, strategy, design, sales, writing. Channel the fire into something you can touch. Physical movement. Work out. Fight. Sprint. Dance. Move the energy through your system so it doesn't stagnate. Ultimately, here's what separates boys from kings. Boys avoid temptation out of fear. Kings walk through fire with focus. And that's what you're becoming. Napoleon Hill left clues for you. He told you that transmutation is the secret of geniuses. He hinted that sex is not the problem, lack of control is. And now you have the full picture. You no longer have to fear your desire. You don't have to suppress your nature. You only have to direct it. Sex is not your enemy. It's not even your goal. It's your power, waiting to be used with wisdom. And when you stop avoiding and start mastering, you will see wealth show up, because your inner world is finally aligned. Discipline, direction, desire. These are your tools. Use them, and build a life worth desiring. Chapter 7. The Woman Behind the Empire. How the right partner multiplies your power and fortune. Napoleon Hill was clear. Behind every great man, there is often a great woman, not just emotionally, but energetically and financially. He wasn't speaking in cliches. He was describing a real phenomenon, that the right woman can amplify a man's sexual energy, expand his subconscious programming, sharpen his ambition, and accelerate his path to wealth. He observed that men with a deep romantic bond often become more focused, more creative, and more driven. Why? Because when sexual energy is harnessed within a conscious relationship, it becomes a steady, renewable source of power. This chapter is about understanding how to choose the right partner, how to co-create wealth with her, and how to avoid the silent traps that sabotage even the most ambitious men. Let's begin with a brutal truth. Most men choose partners based on attraction, validation, or comfort, not alignment. They chase chemistry instead of compatibility. They want pleasure, not power. But if you're building an empire, you need a queen, not a distraction. The right woman is not just someone who supports you emotionally. She is a co-architect of your reality. She sharpens you when you're dull. She holds you accountable to your greatness. She amplifies your energy instead of draining it. Let's examine this through Napoleon Hill's lens. He spoke of sex transmutation as the process by which desire, especially sexual desire, gets converted into action, creativity, and financial momentum. Alone, a man can channel this through willpower. But in the presence of the right partner, that energy doubles, even triples. Because now it's not just your energy. It's your energy plus her belief in you. It's your drive plus her feminine radiance. It's your purpose plus her intuitive guidance. This is not about dependency. It's about symbiosis. Two energies that complement and complete the circle of manifestation. Let's look at what the wrong partner does. She doubts you. She mocks your ambition. She doesn't understand your need for silence, solitude, or long hours. She competes with your purpose. She drains your attention through chaos and emotional games. She views your sexual energy as a toy for her validation, not a force for building something greater. That kind of dynamic will cost you your empire. Because when your sexual energy is constantly scattered in drama, arguments, jealousy, and insecurity, you lose your power. You stop building. You start fighting battles that don't move you forward. You start surviving instead of creating. But the right woman, she fuels you. She sees your vision even when you're exhausted. She speaks life into your plans. She understands the sacred nature of your sexual energy and co-creates with it. This woman is not perfect. She is aligned. Aligned with your purpose, your values, your fire. Together, you don't just have sex. You have sacred contracts in the bedroom. You affirm your mission. You renew your fire. You remember who you are. Let's break this into action steps. 1. Clarity before commitment. Before choosing a life partner, ask, does she align with my mission? Does she make me sharper or softer? Can she hold space for my growth, even when it's uncomfortable? Can she transmute sexual energy with me, not just consume it? If the answer is no, she may be beautiful, but she's not your queen. 2. Co-creation over codependence. Do you share goals? Not just, let's be happy, but real, measurable targets. Building a business? Investing? Raising a conscious family? Creating generational wealth? If your relationship has no shared goals, it becomes decay over time. Energy without direction leads to entropy. 3. Conscious intimacy rituals. Have a weekly practice that binds sex to purpose. Speak your visions before or after sex. Visualize your future together during moments of deep connection. Use the energy to generate ideas, solutions, and momentum. This is not cheesy, it's strategic. You're programming each other's subconscious through trust and shared fire. 4. Emotional alchemy. Teach each other how to hold emotional energy. Most fights in relationships are untransmuted emotion. But emotion, like sexual energy, is raw power. Learn to move through it together, without projection, without ego. Every time you do, your bond strengthens, and your energy multiplies. Now, a word for the men building alone. You don't need a woman to begin. You don't need a partner to rise. You can start with transmuting your own energy. You can cultivate your inner fire. You can create wealth without support. But eventually, if you choose to unite your life with someone, understand this. She will either be the fire that propels your rocket, or the weight that drags it back to earth. Choose wisely. Because once your sexual energy is bonded to someone, you're no longer flying solo. Their beliefs, their moods, their self-worth, it all begins to shape your field. Napoleon Hill didn't just tell you how to think and grow rich. He told you to build your empire on the strongest foundation. A clear mind, a disciplined body, a wise heart, and an aligned partner. The man who combines all four becomes unstoppable. Your sexual energy is sacred. Who you share it with determines what you build with it. And what you build with it will determine the quality of your entire life. Choose a woman who reflects your highest self. Not your wounded self. Not your ego. Your visionary self. Because together, you're not just making love. You're making history. Chapter 8, Magnetic Wealth. How sexual energy turns you into a prosperity magnet. There is a moment in a man's life when things begin to align. Not because he has more money, but because he has more energy. Not because he reads more books, but because he radiates a new level of magnetism. That magnetism is not given by luck, nor taught in school. It is earned through sexual discipline, mental clarity, and emotional alignment. Napoleon Hill understood this. He said, when harnessed and redirected along other lines, this motivating force, sex energy, maintains all of its attributes of keenness of imagination, courage, etc., which may be used as powerful creative forces in literature, art, or in any other profession or calling. What he was saying is this: when you own your sexual energy, you attract more than lovers. You attract wealth, opportunities, respect, and power. This chapter is about the final stage, magnetism. We're not talking about fantasy law of attraction nonsense. We're talking about biological, psychological, and energetic magnetism. The kind that makes people lean in when you speak, trust you when you sell, and follow you when you lead. And it begins inside your body. Let's break it down. The physics of magnetism. In the physical world, magnetism is the result of alignment. When the electrons in a material spin in the same direction, they create a magnetic field. When they're scattered, there's no magnetism. The same is true with your energy. When your thoughts, emotions, sexual drive, and actions are scattered, you are invisible. You walk into a room and no one notices. You speak and no one listens. You create but nothing moves. But when your internal forces are aligned, when your sexual energy rises instead of leaks, when your thoughts are coherent, when your purpose is burning, you become magnetic. This is not a metaphor. It's real. People feel you. They may not understand why, but they know something is different. That something is your transmuted sexual energy now acting as a gravitational field. The economics of energy. Every business transaction is an exchange of energy. Sales, leadership, investment, negotiation. It's all about who controls the energy in the room. When you walk into a deal, you're not just offering a product, you're offering a presence. People buy certainty, confidence, power. And nothing generates these more consistently than a man in sexual alignment. Why? Because he doesn't leak. He doesn't chase. He doesn't collapse under pressure. He radiates. His voice is calm. His eyes are clear. His movements are intentional. His decisions are swift. This is what makes high-level people want to work with you. They can feel that you're not starving for validation. You're anchored in your mission. That anchoring comes from owning your energy. It comes from refusing to let desire control you, and choosing to ride the wave instead of being drowned by it. Magnetic identity. Your sexual energy shapes your self-perception. And your self-perception dictates your identity. And identity is the foundation of all action. You don't become wealthy by chasing money. You become wealthy by becoming a man who sees himself as wealth in motion. When you transmute sexual desire into vision, discipline, and boldness, you start to feel worthy of wealth. You walk differently. You talk to people from a different place. You move with ease. And because you believe it, the world believes it too. This is why some men can walk into a room and command attention with zero effort. Their energy precedes them. That energy is charged by sexual fire, not burnt out by addiction or numbness. They are full. And fullness attracts more. The rituals of magnetism. Here's how to make this real. Not just philosophy, but a daily energetic practice that rewires your presence. 1. Morning Power Ritual. Before the day begins, don't scroll. Don't leak. Don't drift. Sit in silence. Breathe into your belly. Feel your sexual energy rising. Visualize your empire. Say one sentence aloud, My energy creates my reality. Now move into your day with purpose. 2. Midday retention anchor. At some point during the day, you will feel desire. That's not a weakness. That's your power switch trying to turn on. When it does, don't suppress it. Smile. Feel it. Stand up. Take 3 deep breaths. Then act. Call a client, film a video, close a deal, solve a problem. Link arousal to action. 3. Nighttime manifestation. Before sleep, place your hand on your chest or abdomen. Feel your energy. Reflect on where it went that day. Did you scatter it or contain it? Did you build with it or burn it away? Then whisper your wealth identity. I am magnetic to opportunity. Let that be your final thought. It will sink deep into your subconscious as you sleep. Sexual energy and social dynamics. One of the least discussed benefits of transmuted sexual energy is social influence. When you are sexually aligned, people feel safe around you, yet challenged to grow. Women sense your groundedness and respect it. Men feel your presence and trust your leadership. Clients sense your calm and confidence and want to buy from you. Followers online feel something real, and they stay. You don't have to shout. You don't have to sell constantly. You simply exist in full charge. And the world reorganizes itself to serve your clarity. The final stage of wealth creation. Hill said the path to riches begins in the imagination, is fueled by desire, and becomes real through persistence and faith. Sexual energy powers all of it. Imagination becomes more vivid when you're aroused, but disciplined. Desire becomes unstoppable when you're not leaking energy. Persistence becomes second nature when you're energized. Faith becomes embodied when your body is vibrating with life. This is not about being superhuman. It's about returning to your natural state, before the addictions, the confusion, the noise. A man full of life. A man with fire in his veins. A man who owns his body, mind, and mission. And that man is not just rich in the future. He's rich now, in energy, clarity, and confidence. And guess what? Money loves that man. Because money is energy. And it flows to the man who can hold more of it, without leaking, without fear, without hesitation. Final words. You now understand what Napoleon Hill was pointing to all along. Not just mindset, not just goals, not just thinking, but sexual mastery as the engine of the empire. This is your time to live as the full, powerful, magnetic man you were born to be. The energy is already inside you. Don't waste it. Don't suppress it. Use it. Transmute it. Build with it. And let it make you magnetic to everything you desire. Closing chapter. The hidden key. Sexual energy as the missing link between desire and destiny. Now that you've walked through each stage idea by idea, principle by principle, you can finally see what Napoleon Hill was trying to tell you, without saying it directly. Sexual energy is not separate from success. It is the engine beneath all achievement, the current beneath all movement, the heat behind all fire. This is not about pleasure. This is not about suppression. This is about ownership. The man who owns his sexual energy does not live like other men. He doesn't seek approval. He doesn't stumble in chaos. He doesn't drain himself in distractions. He is full. He is focused. He is forging his empire, brick by brick, breath by breath. Napoleon Hill spent decades interviewing the most powerful men of his time, and over again, he observed something that no one else had the courage to say in public. That the ability to control, channel, and transmute sexual energy was the real common denominator among the truly great. Not talent, not luck, not even intelligence, but the mastery of desire. Sexual desire is the most primal urge in the human body. If you can't lead that energy, it will lead you. And if it leads you, it will pull you in every direction but forward. You'll chase women. You'll chase validation. You'll chase dopamine, likes, orgasms, ego. And you'll wake up years later wondering why you never built anything that matters. But if you can master it, if you can own the fire without burning yourself, then you become a different kind of man. The kind of man who wakes up with purpose instead of confusion, walks into a room with presence instead of need, builds a business with long-term clarity instead of short-term hype, makes love as a way to charge his empire, not escape from his life, feels his power rise in moments of desire, and channels it like a warrior. This is sexual transmutation. This is masculine mastery. This is the unspoken foundation of all true wealth. Every chapter you've read has shown you a different angle. How sexual energy is biological fire. How it becomes wealth through transmutation. How leakage drains your power. How conscious intimacy fuels your mission. How the subconscious reprograms under sexual intensity. How mastery, not abstinence, is the path. How the right woman becomes your multiplier. How you become magnetic when you stop leaking and start building. But now the question isn't, do you understand? The real question is, what will you do with this power? Because this is not just knowledge. This is a weapon. This is a tool. This is your hidden edge. The modern world doesn't want you to know this. They want you weak. They want you distracted. They want you chasing images and illusions. But now you've seen behind the curtain. And here is the truth. Your energy is everything. Your attention is currency. Your sexual fire is divine. And your future will be the exact result of how you manage them all. So here's your vow. Make it today. I will no longer be a slave to desire. I will be its master. I will build with it. I will create with it. I will manifest my fortune with it. I will not waste what was meant to build empires. From this moment forward, you are no longer just a man. You are a builder of worlds. You are a vessel of fire. You are the magnetic center of your own empire. And if you ever doubt that, if the world tries to distract you, if your old habits creep back in, if temptation whispers at night, you return to this one truth. Sex is not the goal. Sex is the power. And when you own your power, you own your destiny. Now go build.